Thank you guys for watching the Animal One Guys YouTube channel. If you like my content, leave a comment down below. Ask me questions, let me know what you liked about it. And hey, click on the little like button. But please, if you want, go ahead and subscribe, because it helps my channel out. That way you can stay up to date with all my videos. And if you want, click on the bell icon to get notified. Right? Right? Huh? 1 out of 2. Not bad. So I just had a female bearded dragon surrender to me. Here she is. She's 5 years old. And she has, this year and last year, she laid a clutch of non-fertile eggs. She wasn't kept with a male. And the college student, I guess it was supposed to be some class thing. Then it ended up being just ditched on this, one of the females in the class, one of the girls. And then she got in contact with me and wanted to know if I could take her in, and through talking and everything. This is her, but guys, I'm going to go over why it's very important. Whenever you buy a new reptile, even from the store, you need to quarantine your reptile. You need to make sure the reptile does not go in the same room as your other animals, and I'm going to go into why. So when I took her out, I had noticed that her vent was pretty bulged open, and I'll make a more up-close video of that. But they had also said that they stopped on the way here because she went to bathroom in the car, in like the travel bin, and they wanted to clean her up. So apparently she had diarrhea. That's not too uncommon when you're traveling. Maybe you're stressing out the reptile, right? So what do we do? So while I'm cleaning the parts, I go ahead and I always give every new reptile that I get a bath. I want to clean them up. If there's anything on them, I want to get them cleaned, and it could help them go to the restroom. Now you'll see that she did go to the bathroom again in here, and there actually is some urate down there. You'll look at the white. Now this is really important because she went to the bathroom again, and this isn't really put together. This is really runny. And if she just had diarrhea in the car, it's about a 20-minute car ride to my house, and then she had diarrhea in here again. So now I'm starting to think, could there be an intestinal problem? I wasn't told that this reptile always has diarrhea. I was told everything was fine. This is coming from an apartment. This was the only pet. But this leads me to thinking there's an issue. Well, we keep going. After that, I put her back in the travel tub that she came in right here. And that's because now I have to get the quarantine, the bath tank cleaned up. I still have to disinfect her enclosure because she was lucky enough to come with an enclosure, but she did diarrhea again, and again a pretty good amount. So she could very well have an intestinal issue, but let's just keep that in mind when we go to look her over. Now we're outside here on my driveway, so just as important as it is to clean the reptile when they come in, we also want to clean the contents of the tank and the tank itself, if you get contents or a tank with it. So I laid everything out in the sun so it can dry. I sprayed, I disinfected everything, I wiped everything down, and then it's just drying. Now normally this is done while the reptile is soaking, but I had to take the reptile out of the soaking to put her in just another tank while we wait, because she's gone to the bathroom now in 2 tanks. Great. So I've already cleaned the enclosure inside and out that she came with, moved that inside to the quarantine room. Now let's go ahead and get all this stuff in there, that empty tank, so we can get her in and we can do a video of what she's looking at. Okay, so now I have everything inside that came with this enclosure, and we're going to try to put a puzzle together here of what was going on, because when I asked for more details, was she sick? No. Okay, what was the temperature of her basking spot? Didn't really get, there was no answer. She said tried to be about 90 degrees. All right, whatever. Let's take a peek at the enclosure. But before we do, so she is now gone to the bathroom again in this tank, and looks like she's still, yeah, so she's definitely still going. See, she's lifting up her tail, and I got another nice piece of stool here to take care of. So now we've gone in 3 tanks here at my house, and 1 supposedly on the car ride here. And again, we can see she's struggling a little bit. She's leaving kind of a trail, and she's going there. So we definitely have diarrhea. It's very watery, and it's coming out as a trail. All right. So now that I don't get to hear that happening in the corner, let's see what we have going on here. So the enclosure is here. I've gone ahead and put the tiles back down. Now I'm going to go ahead and put newspaper down, especially a thick layer, especially with I see her having all this diarrhea. And then we also had a stand for the light, although we'll get to this in a second as well. I see that this middle piece is broken and it looks like it was melted, so there was probably some type of heat apparatus going on here and melted it. Sometimes this is very common. And no screen top, so don't know, the screen top could have gotten damaged. Not a huge deal with a bearded dragon, so that's fine. In fact, it can be better to let heat and UV penetrate without a screen top if you have your UV sources on the outside of the screen. If you've mounted your UV to the inside, you don't have to worry about it. So that's an overview of the tank, as well as what looks to be like a thermometer right here. All right. Now the contents are pretty interesting. We've got this nice big log. Okay. Not always great for bearded dragons, but that's fine. We have a small bark. I imagine we got this when the bearded dragon was smaller and probably outgrew it. We have this big rock hide. Not really going to be used for a hide with the size she is because this opening is small, but it's pretty nice. But definitely can bask on this just from drying outside. This is retaining a lot of heat. This is probably going to go under the light source to be the basking spot. Hammock. So unfortunately, this is a smaller hammock, and I don't like these for the full-size bearded dragons. You've seen Mongo and Archimedes. They have the full size, so I'll get a full-size one of these. Now, this is something that concerns me. This is probably the feeding bowl. Pretty common to see these. But this is the water bowl, and I don't really like this water bowl. I feel like it's pretty shallow, and although bearded dragons don't need a lot of water, they can, if you don't keep up to date, I bet you this could have been drying out really quickly, and you're not checking it. A little bit of hard water rim around the outside, so probably just tap water was used, which is really okay, but it's just good to know to see that that was happening. We have some reptile calcium from ZooMed with vitamin D3 in the little shaker style. That's good. That leads me to believe they were dusting the insects. Now, the insects, I was told she eats only superworms. That's all she would eat. We're going to hopefully change that. But not a great diet, which could also be because how fatty these are, could be a reason for the diarrhea. A replacement Repti Sun, it's a 10.0. That is interesting to go in the fluorescent holder, which is right here. So it's going to be interesting to see when we hook this up, guys. And remember, we'll use my UV tester, see how much UV is coming out of this thing. Big heat dome with a actual light. I'm not sure the brand. This must have been the primary heat source. And then we have a smaller heat dome with my preferred heat device, a ceramic heat emitter, just so then you can control lighting. And let's see if we can see the wattage. So unfortunately on this, where the information would be is off, but that's okay. We can plug it in and turn it on, and I can temp it to see how strong this is. Now, this is probably what ended up melting it because it is in the perfect dome for a ceramic heat emitter if you're trying to pump out heat. When you do the mini domes like this with a ceramic heat emitter, this is a 5.5 inch dome. This is an 8-inch dome. These pump out heat. They really blast an area, and they can get it super hot depending on how strong of a ceramic emitter you put in there. Then we have the classic starting kit from ZooMed, thermometer and humidity. And then we have a timer. Now, I haven't touched this timer, but I do like this timer because it tells you what pins down equal and pins up equal. And so we can see that at 7 a.m., the lights came on, and then they shut off at 9:30. Yeah, it looks like the 9:30 pin's kind of halfway, so I don't think they were shutting off at 10. It looked like they were coming off at 9:30. That's a good cycle. We're gonna make an adjustment to have it come on at 6:30 like all my other lights, and then we'll adjust the actual time of day because it's not 9:30 a.m. right now. But these are all the contents. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna get all the contents in the tank with newspaper on the tank. We're gonna turn everything on. We'll take some temps. We'll take some UV readings, and then we'll give the Beardy one more bath, and then we'll look over her, and then we'll put her in the tank. So let's put this tank together. So here's a last shot of the tank before we put anything in it. All right, guys, so this is what I've come up with. The hot side here with the heat light. We'll take some temps. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how low this has to go. We may switch this to a ceramic heat emitter. We may leave this until it burns out. But what I notice here is the UV. It's not on. It's plugged into the same timer. And watch it here. Ready? No UV. No UV. So now I'm wondering how long could this dragon have been without UV if this was the only source. There's that spare bulb, so let's put that spare bulb in and see if we get UV. Okay, so as another update, the fixture is bad. Well, I don't have another tube fixture, and what are we gonna do when we have only one stand available? Well, we go to my favorite, mercury vapor bulb for the rescue. UV and heat in one bulb, that'll be fine. So let's get this guy in. All right, the mercury vapor is up and running, good old faithful. In a second here, we'll test the UV, and then we'll let this bulb come up to full temp. That way we can test temp of the basking platform after like 30 minutes. So, done. Cool side, done. I'm gonna get some water in the water bowl. We're gonna let this come to temp, but let's take a look at who I am now calling Arcee and see what she's up to. Okay, so step one, we take the good old reptile kit that's got our scale and our measure, and we're going to go ahead and weigh her, and then we're going to get a measurement on her, just so we have those documented for the future. So we get our scale, we put our tray that I'm going to use, which this is going to be too small for her. So we'll use this Tupperware, get that on there, let it sit. Then we'll zero out the scale. There we go. Then let's go ahead and pop her in. The party. Okay, 423 grams. And the length now, we're going to do as good of a job as possible. 9 inches to the base of the tail, 12, there's 14, there's 16, 19 inches, okay. And that's a very important step to do, guys, if you're rescuing, if you pick up an animal, even if you just get a new animal as your pet and you bring them home, you're going to want to monitor their progress. Hi, could you come back? Thanks. So now let's go over her, right? So we have supposedly estimated to be, or so I was told, a 5-year-old female bearded dragon. She's laid 2 clutches, never been with a man, so they've been infertile, which that's fine. That's absolutely okay. We're not going to judge her for laying infertile clutches, who was surrendered because the owner didn't have time for her, which is fine. That's great to surrender for that. That way your pet can go to a home that will love and take care of it. That's just okay. Female, who upon transportation here had diarrhea once on the ride, and then after being here had diarrhea in her bath, had diarrhea in the first holding tub, and had diarrhea in the second holding tub. So supposedly 4 diarrheas, 2 containing urate. Okay. One thing you can know for a reptile too is the smell of their waste to see if they are bad or not. This stunk a little bit, but not like I've smelled with infected parasites. So that's real good. So let's do the basic body overview, okay? Good good color. Let's feel it. Feel the spikes. So feeling a bearded dragon's little spiked frills here is a good sign to look for dehydration. If these are super rock hard, then we know that she's probably been dehydrated. And these are not. These are a good natural feeling, so that's good. The second thing we're going to look for is dehydration in the skin. If we take a little bit of the skin and you can do the pinch test, does it stay or does it go back? We pinch and it goes back, so that's good. So nice, we know she's hydrated based on the frills, based on the pinch test. Great. Let's go ahead and look at the face here. Eyes look very healthy. They're not cloudy. We look at the ears for stuck shed or anything coming out of there, nice and clean on the one side. And then we want to check the nose. All right, so let's check the nose. This is also another important thing to check. Any stuck shed? Nope, nostril looks good. It's flared, unobstructed. We go to the other side. Eye, ear, nose, very good. So that's our early check. The other thing we're going to look at is hands. So I was told she's only cut this bearded dragon's claws one time when she was younger, but that she grinds them in her cage, and so she takes care of them herself. Now, if we look at these claws, come around here, we notice that this is the front left foot. They're like perfectly flush. So if she's not cutting these, oh, she's not cutting these because there's just a little hook. Okay, look here. See that little hook there? That is the sign of a bearded dragon who cuts her claws on her own. We have a little bit of stuck shed. Look right here on the finger. Now that's important to look for right there, because that is how bearded dragons can lose fingers. If that stuck shed were to stay and build, then it would be a problem. And we do, because this girl takes care of her own nails, we have a really bad, let me show you here, curled nail. Oh, come on. Calm down, Arcee. See if I put her lower and I bring this camera down so I don't have to pick her up. We got a bad curled nail on her front right, most outer. So see the way the finger has developed here? It is curled down. So when she walks, look at that. She walks on the base of the nail. That can lead to a lot of problems. I'm actually surprised that that's still there. And then here is the stuck shed right there on that foot. We're going to get rid of that stuck shed because we don't want to lead to a loss of nail or finger. And we just soaked her and it just came right off, as you can see. So that's good. Let's go ahead and check out the other feet. Hey, you're being a good girl. So this is the back right. And again, if we look, you can definitely see she's doing these on her own because of the way that they're ground down like this on an angle. We're probably not going to do it today on these, but we are going to want to do some maintenance work on these claws to get them from stop being on a slant, to get them to be nice and flush. More healthy for your bearded dragon. Let's go ahead and check out this one. And again, we have a toe that's in the back here that when she walks, she more than likely puts on the front here. We might be able to correct that by shaping the nail forward, so over time her toe sits a little bit higher like this and just has a short stub of a nail. They will walk much healthier when we do that. Okay, otherwise she looks really good. Now, let's zoom out and let's pull up and let's look at something that's obvious from the front. She has had, in the past, at some point, massive trauma to her tail. So, and if you noticed it when I was measuring her, you see it now. We have some massive kinks. So we had some breakage of the bone that then healed like this. There's another way to get this, is if they're stunted and the tail can't grow and it grows like this, but that's really rare. And she's coming from a big enclosure, and she said that she was always in this enclosure, so she must have whipped this tail and broke it. Maybe she was scared, she was skittish, but we have a massive, so let's follow the tail. The tail's going down straight. I mean, it's a little bent here where it's curving, but this is normal. It's just her turning her tail right now, and then boom, here's the first kink. So at some point, let's let the kink sit straight. That's the tail straight. These pieces. So, right. Find the problems. So we have our first kink here. This is a big one. It's almost a 90-degree heel, although looks kind of cool because you get kind of like a lightning bolt effect. Then you come down and there's a second kink right here, immediately followed by a third, and then one at the very tip. So she's 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 spots where her tail was just broken, and then unfortunately healed like that. Beep, beep. That's unfortunate, but in terms of in captivity, this is one of the least problems. It can happen again. They slam their tail, boom, 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 and it ends up breaking. Not life-threatening, just more annoying for them and the look. All right. So that's a thing we've seen that just is not great. Now let's look. She's given birth, again, like I said, to 2 clutches, and she had some diarrhea today. Let's check out her vent and see what we're working with. Okay, so we can see her smaller femoral pores are right here. Being a female, she'll have very small femoral pores. And let me just take a peek. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to run into anything. So here's the vent. We can go ahead and start to open the vent, and it's closed quite well. And I don't see anything stuck in there. I don't see, it's not bulging open. It sits normal. Her pores are normal. Feeling for any type of lumps or anything. Nope, that's all good. Excellent. A little bit of stuck shed on the tail here, but that's okay. And a few pieces of stuck on the chest there. Otherwise, she looks good. So we're going to want to monitor that diarrhea issue. So now the other thing we're going to do, we're not going to do it today because we don't want to traumatize her. We're going to put her in her enclosure now. We'll treat her tomorrow, the following day, with some of the Repti-Aid, that immune system booster that's good for them. And we can give her the right amount because we've weighed her, which is really nice. And I'll give her a double dose to start, which is completely fine. But let's go and check out the enclosure right before we put her in. So now that the enclosure is kind of all set up here in the corner of the room, we're gone ahead and we've gotten the few things that are very important when setting up an enclosure and making sure everything's working. Our reptile UV index, our solar meter, which is really nice, and our laser temp gun. So you can already see that the light is green on the left here, the heat spot, because that's where the mercury vapor is. So the camera of the phone is able to pick up the UV, where in real life it just looks white. So we're going to first check the UV at the basking point and see what we get. She's going to sit here. Okay, so we're getting about 4 to 4.5 on the UV index. And if you guys want to know what you can do with that, so basically you have your Ferguson zones, and you can look up the different reptiles. I've gone over this before, so we don't have to go into it crazily, but you can look up the different reptiles and you can see what UV index they're supposed to be in. So whether that's too much, too little, you'll know what to do. If we check the UV even outside, we're at about 1 to 2 at base level. Over here, same thing, all the way around on this side. Over on the far side of the cage, it's much darker, so that's where she's going to retreat to the cooler side. Now, temp gun is what we're going to look at. So bearded dragons, basking spot. About 85 degrees is where you're looking for. That's the sweet spot. Up to, some people will say 90. I don't really like 90, 87, 88, but you're starting to push it when you get there. And so what would we do? How would we, if we needed more heat, let's say, because we're using a mercury vapor, and to get the correct UV, it would be too cold to have the bulb higher. Well, when you're using a combined bulb, then you're going to supplement heat somehow. Now, it being the winter, I run the furnace. The temperature in my home doesn't get, or not the winter, the summer, excuse me. The temperature in my home, it doesn't get cooler than what I've set the air conditioner to, which is normally about 78 degrees. So bearded dragons can have a cool temp in their cage up to 68 degrees on the cool side. So we do not need any supplement of nighttime heating here because it's going to be in the mid to high 70s at the coldest. So there's no nighttime heating that's needed. So that's one. So two, let's check the heat of that stone. Now first I like to just do a brief hand check, and it's a little warm. Now again, I'm not going to panic and drop that light because it's only been on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at best. That hasn't reached full heat yet, but let's give it a temp and see where we're at. Okay, and we're going to temp around it as well, and then we're going to temp the cool side. Okay, so the cool side we're getting low 80s. That's fine. And then on the ground above around here, we're getting low 80s. And then on the basking spot, we're getting a little hot. We're getting low 90s. We're getting 91 on the dead center heat. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and this is what's nice and easy, there's a couple adjustments that I know I'm going to want to make, is the center of the heat light right now is about here. Let's see if you can really see that. I'm going to want to move the heat light back a little bit to this higher point, and then I'm going to raise the lamp up just a touch. And that's really cool with the stands. You can just go like this, turn it, raise it. And what I'll do with this basking spot is actually kind of move it to the corner a little bit like that. That's much better. So now you can see the sunspot is about here, much more in the center. And we raised that thing about ½ an inch, and we've dropped it to 87. We're just going to go up just a touch more. There we go. And now we have cool 85.5, 86, just a little touch more. Just do these in small increments, guys, small increments. Now, anyone who's watching this is going to be like, wow, you're putting that up all the way, but on your other bearded dragons, you have the mercury vapor sitting like right on top of the top. Well, that's because they have those thick metal meshes, which are going to, dilute the UV and dilute the heat. When you have an open top cage like this, you have the ability for an animal that doesn't need humidity, and when you keep the ambient temperature of your house at a good amount for her in the winter, open top like this, it might get a little cooler. I like to keep the house cool. That's okay. We will just supplement it with heat throughout the day, and then that runs at night, keeping it at the minimum, the supplemental heat. But we've raised it up quite a bit, and if we temp the heat stone and the area around it, sweet, 84.5, we're right where we need to be for right now. We're going to leave it like this, and then in 3 hours, I'll come back and I'll check temps, and then I'll make an adjustment. And then after that initial 3 hours, I'll be checking the temps every hour until it's exactly where I want it to be. All right, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed seeing Arcee. We'll definitely feature more of her in the future, and now having a second female bearded dragon, we can look at mingling two female bearded dragons together that won't compete. Take care, everyone.